I've been here in Lupus for 41 years, I believe it was, when in 1977 I pulled the canoe up over the bank here and saw the town for the first time, and my senses almost blurred. I had to come back the next day and make sure it was for real. Here I am for 41 years. There are often an auction of a family's home and everything up here, halfway up the Lupus Hill. And I'd never used an apple press, or I don't know if I'd even seen one, but anyway, I ended up buying it and hauling it down the hill here to the store. Anyway, along the way came the Ruth family, and they enjoyed making it enough to go out and find apples and come down every year one day. Probably starting in the late 80s, we started doing it with our family and a few friends, and Doug was always part of it, with the cider press. And we did that for quite a number of years here. I don't really have any family left other than Buddy, my cat, kitty cat at the house. So for me, it's a big deal in being a part of that family reunion. It's one of the best events of my year.
You know, family traditions are really important, no matter what they are, whether it's a Christmas tradition or apple cider or hayride, you know, whatever it is, it gives you something to come home to. My son Jonah is here, he's 20, and he doesn't live here anymore. And he kept asking, when's apple cider? Because I want to come back and be a part of it.
I've been coming to the annual cider press for as long as I can remember. I keep coming back because it's tradition, and you know, cider's always good, no matter what time of year.
Cider was a big enough project that it needed its own day. In fact, for a number of years, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 different people with apples would come out to Lupus on different October days and make cider.
Starts with a seed. We grow the tree. No, I'm just kidding you. Sorry. Basically, we take the apples, we wash them in 2 sinks. So we do an initial wash or rinse, and then we put it in the rinse one. Then you have basically the way that old school press works is you have a hopper with a flywheel and crank. And so in there's essentially a grinder, which basically crushes the apples, creates pulp, shoots it out the bottom of it, and puts it in a basket. And so when you get that full basket, the idea, we say, you know, when you're pressing apple cider, is you press it down. So you fill that first basket up, you slide it down, basically the press, and then you have another crank, which you just kind of, you know, bring it down and then press it as hard as you can get it, as much pressure as you can get it. And that's when you really see the apple juice like pour out of it, you know. And that's when you gotta be at the ready, you know, replace containers and keep it warm. But like everyone here has done this so many times, we kind of know exactly, everyone just kind of fills whatever role needs to be done at the time. Then we strain it into jugs, leave a little room because we're gonna freeze them, so it'll expand, so you wanna leave a little room. And we do that until all the apples and pears are gone.
I think there's been years that there's been as many as 80 or 100 gallons pressed here. Some years it's been as few as maybe 20 or 30. This year we might end up with 30 or 40 gallons.
I think there's a high level of importance in just making things with your hands. So seeing your friends enjoy the fruits of your labor, watching your kids, you know, enjoy a glass of apple cider, all that stuff is rewarding in its own way.
When we finished, we cleaned it up, hosed it down, and the only thing I do is throw a wash tub or 2 over the top of it to keep it from being rained on all the time, and there it sits till next October.